Let me give a quick introduction of myself. My name is Dred. I'm from Jamaica. I live in Miami right now, and I've been working in IT for a very long time, but I found Bitcoin and fell on a rabbit hole, and I've been doing just Bitcoin-related stuff in education with D++ for, a couple months ever since I started, but several years down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin. The thing you should know is that even though I've been in IT for a long time in corporate America, I learned JavaScript in college, I learned SQL, I learned C++, but I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I used that during corporate America IT consulting. Like, it's not really, very hands-on unless you're an analyst. So it's been a while. And since I fell on the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I started rejuvenating my love for programming, my learning new languages again. And I really wanted to come here and show you that even if you are rusty, not just in Rust, but in everything else, you can still, package a service, package your favorite open source software on Umbrel and on Embassy, and probably on a lot of other software too. Raspberry Blitz has a really good guide that they use to package theirs as well. So the first thing I'll do is show you a quick overview of what the Embassy looks like for those who haven't seen it yet. This is my Embassy. I'm going to show you the 4 main places you can go. The first one is your install services. It shows me 4 services I'm running right now. Well, I'm running 3 of them: LND, Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Proxy, which is giving you RPC access to any other service you have on the Embassy, and you can actually control the different RPC commands that you decide each service to have. And then I installed Balance of Satoshis as an example to you guys, which we're going to do later. You actually shouldn't have seen that, but now you know what we're going to install. So I'll delete that for now. And the Embassy menu shows you all of the settings. If you wanted to create a backup, change your name, restart, look at your LAN address, etc. The marketplace is like my favorite place, because that's where I put all the services I build and that you guys can build too. It is pretty in-depth. It's not like as many as Umbrel has right now, but as you can tell, both platforms, all the platforms really, are really ramping up on the amount of things you can do with them and the amount of services that they offer. So if you look, this is all of the ones that they currently have. The one I'm more excited about is the PlebNet tools, because I built them all, and PlebNet's awesome. And of course, your core Bitcoin services like Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Proxy, Mempool, BTC Pay Server, etc. So now that you know what Umbrel looks like, sorry, not Umbrel. I don't know why I'm loving Umbrel so much. It was so nice. If you guys watch the video, it's a really nice video of how it looks. But now you know what Embassy looks like. Let's say you wanted to run something else, like your own notes platform or your own custom software that you built. You can literally wrap that and put it on here and run it on your own server. So enough talking. Let's get to the presentation. I think I went through half of this already. So service packaging, yay! I did it in my own little island theme. I hope you like it, since I'm running a company now called Island Bitcoin Education. House rules. First of all, you know who I am already. My favorite food is ackee and saltfish. If you want to know what that is, come to me afterwards. I'll explain it. And my programming experience, self-deprecating, but I am a script kiddie. Well, I feel like I'm not one anymore. I'm actually learning, but that's how I started. And let's keep it civil. Put your phones on mute. Ask me questions anytime. I'll answer if I can. And if you have suggestions for me to improve my service packaging skill set, please. I'm always open for improvement. All right, the next 45 minutes of your life, what are we going to do? We are going to talk about why you're here, why it's important to service package. We're going to talk about the foundation, the environment that you need to set up in order to be able to build services for Embassy. And then we're going to package a Hello World service. That one has a lot of comments and examples, and a really good way to show the possibilities of what you can do when packaging a service. Then we're going to do something real. I mean, Hello World is real, but something Bitcoin-esque. And as you saw in the sneak preview, the alpha I gave you, it is Balance of Satoshi. And then we're going to, as we say in Jamaica, go on a market, which means we're going to actually see how you can submit it to Start9. And it's a very similar process for Umbrel too. to get your service out there on the marketplace for everyone to use if you want. All right. Any questions so far? Cool. So let's start off by asking the question, why run a personal server? Well, there's many reasons to run a personal server. My favorite reason is data privacy. Getting away from big tech, you guys kind of know this whole room knows this. Not using Google, not using Amazon, not using Facebook, not using Microsoft. You can do almost anything that they do right now on your own personal server, whether it's a Raspberry Pi, a Rock Pro, or something bigger in your home. And as we build it out, that becomes a standard that might actually create network effects where we can do things that you probably couldn't do with just your server. But your other friends, your Uncle Jim's, your community that also have personal servers, you can start creating products that weren't possible before. So, the big picture really is we're doing this, A, because it's fun and because we have things we want to run, but B, because we're building a brand new method of communication that the world has never seen before, that is uncensorable, and that'll allow you to build things that we've never built before. It's very important. So that's the big picture. But let's get down to the details, the fun stuff. Environment setup list. This, you guys probably know almost everything here except for Embassy SDK, right? I'm sure everybody here has used Git, the version control system, via github.com. You can install that and use it. You're going to need Docker. You're going to need that turned on with experimental features. You're going to need to be able to use build and buildx. You're going to need Cargo, which is a Rust package manager. So if anybody here is a Rust developer.
Cargo
It's for some reason, it doesn't give you permissions to everything you need when you install it, and I don't know why. But there's a little, so if you look at the top of the page here, I have my own public GitHub repo where I call it noob guides, because it gives me some best practices and cheat sheets on how to get around weird things like Cargo not giving you all the permissions you need to your folders. The .cargo folder, for some reason, I don't know why, but you have to manually give it permissions after you install Cargo. But you can go there and you can see all my tips for people who are not as experienced as I would love to be. And finally, Embassy SDK, that was built by Start9. Was that a question?
Yeah, what Docker experimental features are you requiring?
Both. So if you go into I can actually show it here. I just turned on both of them. Where's my Docker?
There's like use virtualization framework and there's VirtuoFS.
Yeah, I turned on both of them.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure which one it actually needs, but but I turned on both of them for it to work. And for you guys wondering what he's asking about, I went here and under experimental features, if it ever starts up, there'll be two checkboxes on the right-hand side that say use virtual and something else. Okay, there we go. And I just turned on both of them. I'm going to assume it's the virtualization framework, but I've never turned this off to check, so feel free to test that out, just to be sure. It's probably not the best way to go about things. You should probably always find out what's actually happening. And then finally, determination. It depends on what you're using, but your system is different. Some people use Windows. Some people use Linux, Mac OS. Either way, you're going to find different quirks that you have to use to install each one of these things. I think Mac OS needs brew, so a lot of the things you can't install using anything else. Snap is kind of weird too, and you need a couple other things to install with Snap. So just be careful as you install. The one thing I would always say is when you're finished, you want your page to look like this. You want to be able to go and do Git version, Docker version, Cargo version, and Embassy SDK version. You want to see all of those listed to know that they've been installed correctly. And then you know you're good to go. All right. You ready? This is the hello world steps, going from nothing on your system to having an environment to creating a package. This is what you have to go through. First, you have to create the shell. It's a folder structure that you're eventually going to put in your own repo, but it's a folder structure on your computer, and it's going to have these minimum files. It's going to have a Docker file, Everyone probably knows what Dockerfile is if you've done containerization before, but it builds your container, your image. You can have a Docker entry point script, shell script, and that's what the Dockerfile drops you into when you're ready to execute. You can have your manifest. Now this is Embassy specific. Your manifest is going to allow you to get creative, name your service, put a picture in there, give it a description, set volumes of what you want to set. I would compare this a lot to the Docker Compose, but it's a Start9ified Docker Compose, and I think it's much more functional, to be honest with you. And you can set backups in here. I'll show you in a second. Your instructions, which goes in the docs folder, those are what's going to show on the Embassy when people want to use it. They're going to ask you how to use your service. You need to direct them how to use your service and instructions. It's a markdown. Icon and the Makefile. The Makefile is just really how you want to package the whole thing up. We have a very set template for packaging S9 PK files and the README, which is if you are building from source, you want to give some, GitHub readme.md. That's what you build there. And that is the full shell of almost everything that I've built. You're going to see all of those files in there, and others too. You'll see other files if it's a more elaborate service, but that's the basics. The bare minimum to run is Dockerfile, Makefile, and manifest. Now, that's what else. And then the last thing, after we've created all those files, the last thing you want to do is be able to ship it, which is packaging it up using the Embassy SDK package software, and then secure copying it, SCPing it over to your Raspberry Pi, which I have right there. I'll show you in a second, and then installing and testing it. So there is a Embassy CLI that we use to package install. It'll pop up on your screen, and then you can run it. And that's really it. That's the whole thing. You make some files, you change some parameters in your manifest, and then you package it and show it. And that goes for anything that is a web app or web capable in GitHub. You can literally take off the internet, package it, and put it on your own server. I mean, there's some other limitations as well, but it's mostly anything that you can build that will show on a HTTP port, you can show on your Embassy. All right. Any other questions so far? Oh, you guys were really quiet. 1 second, let me check some speaker notes for a second.
Do you have ways of testing it before you ship it over, or you gotta ship it to test it?
Good question. So you can test it before if you want, and a lot of people do this by running Docker BuildX on your machine. What you'd want to do is set the TAC platform to be, I think it's ARCH64 or ARM64, because you want to make sure it's compatible with the Raspberry Pi, and that'll make sure that you can build it successfully. If you want to run it and see it on your screen, like using your local host on your laptop, then you'd have to use whatever platform you're using to build it. And that brings up a good point. In my, well, it's up there somewhere, my noob guides, I show you how to build and run some multi-arch Dockers that you need to help cross-platform. Because a lot of the packages, depends on what the package is, right? You might build it for AMD, you might build it for only Arch, and there's cross-platform, I don't even know what to call them really. See, this is where my coding is not that good, but it helps you to cross-platform between a Raspberry Pi or AMD so that if you're building one, it'll work on the other when you're using BuildX. That's kind of why BuildX is so cool too. But yeah, if you want to do it on your machine, just run it, build it with Docker, and then use localhost. Yep.
So where would you specify what ports you want to expose or what additional points you want to mount?
Good question. In the manifest.
In the manifest.
Yeah, you can mount multiple ports too. So when you get there, I'll show you how you mount over Tor, and then you can mount secure. Well, what is it called? SSL equals true or SSL equals false. So you can do either one depending on what you're trying to build.
And just a quick follow-up, can you specify your own certs with SSL, or do you use like what's with Start9 with Embassy?
We are very configurable. So by default, you have your own Start9 SSL, that TLS certificate that comes with it, but within your own container, you can have one as well if you want to, like let's say, I don't know, you're running I don't even know what kind of example that would be to need your own on a separate subdomain, or I'm not sure.
It's some like wallet or custom sort of client that where you want an SSL search just for that connection.
Yeah, you could do that as well.
Do you know if it supports like a range of ports, or can you only give one? The same way Docker supports ranges, does the manifest thing in Start9 support exposing a full range without having to list them all one by one?
I've never actually tried a range, to be honest. I've always listed them one by one. That's a good thing to test, though.
I ran into that problem. Like, so Sensei, the project I work on, needs
Oh, you're Sensei. Cool.
thousands of ports, and I've ran into issues where people don't support
The range.
It's all
Yeah.
sit there and like,
I've never seen any of the services that I've looked at as examples, or the ones I've packaged, use a range before. I'm definitely going to try that when I go home. Yes.
These instructions are just for personal use, not to publish to them like their store or whatever they have. Embassy, they have like a store.
They
right?
do. And if you want to publish to the store, you can. Well, you can submit for them to publish it for you. Like once you build that .9 SPK file and you send it over along with the source code, they audit the code, and if they think
So they already have like access to it with these instructions, like.
no, you would have to upload it to GitHub.
Oh, okay.
And have a
It's
public
separate
repo
from this.
and
Okay.
put a release out with the S9PK file as a release file, and then submit it to Start9,
They audit it.
and they would audit it and put it up if they like it. But honestly, you don't need them to, right? Like, once you have an S9PK file, you can, what we call sideload, which is the SCP here, you can do that to any Raspberry Pi. Like, if you have a friend that's running an embassy, you can secure copy him that file, or magic wormhole, or whatever it's called. You can send it over.
Like an installer or something like that.
Like an exe file or an APK file, or the whole goal, to be honest, the long-term goal is to have not just Embassy, but all personal servers have extensions like this, packages that, just like exe in Windows, just like DEB, just like APK, you can, the companies themselves will build them, right? And they won't need Start9 or Umbrel or anybody else to build them for them, and it'll just be another option for you to run on your own personal server, preserving your data, instead of your own personal computer.
The real Web3.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Between that and Lightning, I mean, I don't see why that's not the real Web3, to be honest. All right, so I've been talking a lot. You guys want to see some code?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's a screenshot of code, but I'll show you the real stuff. So let's go into, not Docker, but VS Code. And the first thing I want to show you is the manifest.yaml. We're going to look at the bare minimum, since I'm pretty sure I don't have that much time. And manifest.yaml is going to give you everything that you need to make this thing look like a package. And I like to do it in this order: manifest, then Makefile, then Dockerfile, because it makes me feel like I know what I'm building before I get too deep into the actual package, which, if you guys know Git, we're going to be doing as a submodule of this S9 repo that you're building. So you build your S9 repo, you do a submodule of the actual code you want to build, and then you package it up.
Like, I
Can
was
you-
thinking I would want like an S9 directory, Umbrel directory. I don't want to have to like go outside of, like inside of the Sensei directory. You'd have like the S9 build, the Umbrel build, and like you should be able to read upwards too.
I think if you wanted to read upwards, you would just inverse the paths in your Docker file. And you could probably do that, yeah. I don't see why. I've never done it that way, but
Yeah, it seems like it should work.
it definitely, yeah, if you wanted to do it that way. Cool. All right, so let's go over to, oh, where am I? I'm lost myself. There we go. So we're going to start out here. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Cool. We're starting out with Hello World. Hello World is a really cool example of a manifest file. And
Could you maybe zoom in?
yeah, I'm going to try and make it bigger. Where's the,
Command plus just
say that again?
command.
Oh, Command plus. Like that.
Uh,
You can probably get rid of this guy.
More.
Like 4 more times should be good? How's that? That was good?
that's pretty good.
All right. A lot of comments here, guys. And I'm going to show you a slimmed down one afterwards. But the main things you should know is that you can set your ID, and the ID is what you are going to be submitting to Start9 for them to put in their registry. And as long as it's not an ID of something they already have, then it should be fine. If you're not submitting to Start9, which most people do, I see most people like I do it. I build all kind of shit on mine, and I never submit it, so I call it whatever I want. The title, of course, is whatever you want it to show in the embassy itself when you're looking at your services. And then your version. The version of the upstream service, let's say we're building balance of Satoshis, it would be 4.9.2. The fourth digit is your personal subversion. So if you're doing a wrapper and you change something on the wrapper, you do this, you iterate this by 1. And then everything else is kind of self-explanatory as you look through it. The one thing I wanted to point out is that if you scroll down to main, you can see that we set the entry point here. If you have a specific service that needs its own entry point script, then you could change that by, where'd that come from? You can change that to whatever that bash script is instead. And then from that bash script, you can go into Docker. It's up to you. Like, this is very creative and very configurable once you have the basics set up in your manifest. There are health checks, which I think are super cool. Yeah, question?
Does it default to the Docker entry point?
It does.
Okay.
It does. Yeah, there's a lot of defaults here that that you could actually just have a very slimmed down version of this, and it'll just default to everything else, except for the few ones I'm showing you. Like, you're not going to have anything that defaults for your ID, your title, yeah. The health checks, that also defaults to nothing, but I love health checks because if you're running a service, you don't want to always have to open it up to see if it's working. You just want to be able to see if something is wrong, it highlights it. And in this one, it's checking to see if your service is on the web. It does a simple curl command every X seconds. You can actually set the amount of seconds in a script, actually. It shows you the script here called check web script. And if I go into assets and where did I go? I lost it. There it is. You can see it's during a duration of 5,000, milliseconds. And it's checking to see if that curl command is still working. If it is, then if it's not, then it tells you that it's unreachable. In the future, I think it's like 032 they're going to do it. You'll be able to do email notifications as well. So if something fails on your service that you're running, you'll be able to know wherever you are by getting a notification. So I think that's pretty cool. Where was I? Let's go back to the manifest.
That's a Start9 specific thing that they run those health checks
Yep.
for you? It's not like a Docker generally thing?
No, it's not. I hope that Umbrel follows us and everybody can, with their own personal server, have health checks, because you don't want to always have to be server. Like, the whole goal of this is to take someone who has a very, high-skilled server administration job and boil it down to what my mom can do. And she just gets notifications when things fail. The dependencies are automatically resolved, that kind of stuff. No dependency hell. Here's volume.
Is it overriding the Docker health check? Or is it using, is that adding to the Docker health check?
It adds to the Docker health check. But in Embassy, we don't get a notification of the Docker health check unless you go to the logs.
Gotcha.
So, which I'll show you here. If you're looking at the Embassy, which I have here, and let's say I want to know why Lightning, for some reason, is not syncing the graph yet, I can go into the logs of Lightning, and it'll show me what's going on there. And that's probably where you'd see any Docker issues. But there's nothing on the home screen unless you're running a health check here. OK. Interfaces. This is important, because this is where, like I said, you can have port mappings from your container to your Embassy, right? Because you're running all of your services from your Embassy. Therefore, everything that you run is going to be from the domain name of your Embassy, whether that is your .onion address over Tor or your .local address if you're at home. And you can port, 80 or 8080 or 69420, whatever you want to whatever 80 port you want on the outside for them to see. And then the same thing for the LAN config. So if I wanted to, right here, for example, I could copy this. And I could paste another one here and say, I want this to also port 4300 to 4300. So if I have, let's say, a MongoDB server or a Maria or something running, I can put that there as well and have it exposed to the embassy to also, allow people to access it. And same thing here. And then this is cool too, because everything you do up top in terms of porting, mapping your ports, you can turn on or off with the UI equal true. And then lastly, not lastly, there's a lot more that you could do. There's alerts, there's properties, but backups are very important. Embassy is different than Umbrel. Well, now Umbrel's new, so I keep on forgetting. Umbrel can do a backup of everything now. Embassy has also a one-click backup of everything. So whatever you want to back up, you'd put here, whatever volumes you want to back up, and then where you want to back them up to, you'd also put here. Say I'm backing this up to root data, for example. And then same thing for restore. If you click the one-click restore, it'll show you where to restore from. So this gives you a lot of options in terms of how to build your service. All right.
So is it this backup the same as mounting the volume of your Docker container, or like, I can I don't know, my data directory mounted with the Docker container. So basically, this is doing another copy of my volume, somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, kind of. It's doing another copy of your volume with the current config somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, because your volume only usually holds your data, not your config. But if you do a backup, it'll copy your config as well. And I'm not even sure where it stores it. Matter of fact, you determine where you store it. Because if I am doing a backup right now of my embassy, it's going to ask me where to store it first. Do I want to store it on a LAN folder? Do I have a physical drive I'm going to plug in?
Can have a second hard drive. Okay.
And that'll copy over the config and the volumes for you into that. Yeah. Yep.
Just a quick question. Can you also set resource limitations?
Ooh, no. And that is something that we're working on as well for 3.1. For 031, there was a program service that I was packaging called Kutch. I don't know if you guys know about Kutch. It was built on top of Flutter. Yeah, really cool privacy preserving chat, tool. It doesn't even have a server in between. It's like you directly connecting with somebody else. But they didn't have anything that prevented somebody from spamming a group chat and taking up all your disk space or all your memory. And we were asking them to build something into it, but they were like, you should have something that limits by container your resources, and we don't have that yet. So hopefully,
I think Docker will let you do that. So if you find a way to pass whatever the Docker settings are through
okay.
manifest, then you should be able to set resource restrictions. I don't know about volume, but CPU and memory for sure.
Yeah. On the run parameter, you can do it.
Okay, but not for space.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Because the space was the exploit for Kutch, where people could just fill up your chat log.
That is
You can set
that's a question
read-write
for the Docker
permissions, but you
config.
can't do
I don't think so.
like space permissions.
So we would have to do it on the one level up inside the configure somehow. But yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good point that we've been looking into as well. All right, where are we? We were looking at manifest. What we're going to look at next? We're going to look at the Makefile. And you guys, let me know if everybody in this room knows this stuff, and I'll go faster. I always feel like you guys are much more skilled at Docker than I am. The Makefile is pretty basic. We're setting a couple variables to find all the different files we need, whether it's the manifest you just saw, the assets if you have images or icons, and then the path to the actual file that we're going to be installing. And then we do a bunch of different commands here that the most important ones that you're going to be changing, these are all pretty much the same every time I do it. I do a verify, I do a Embassy SDK into the S9 PK. And then if you want to remove all the files, like say you did it and it didn't build correctly or something went wrong or you want to redo it, I use a clean to remove them from the folder before I build again. That's another pro tip. Then we do Embassy SDK pack. And here you can see where we're using the experimental features to build out, and you guys have probably seen this before. I think Umbrel does it the same way, and many people do it this way. You tag it, use the correct platform. Like I said, for Raspberry Pi, it's going to be Linux ARM64. You can also do AARCH64. I think that works. And and then your destination is the tar file. So two things come out of this, S9PK and a tar file.
Is it the name of the targets? You know, you can choose whatever you want, right? Or they need to be like clean, verified. It's just something you use yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
something you use yourself. You don't even need this Makefile, to be honest. If you know what you're doing, you could literally do this all yourself.
Okay.
But it just for people who are not, very familiar
Yeah.
with Docker, this is the easiest way to get up and running without, and you can repeat without
It's
having
not a
to.
requirement by,
Not at all. Not at all. And I think that's it for this file. And then the last file is your Docker file. And for the Hello World Docker file, it's super easy. But the thing I like about this Docker file in Hello World is it shows you the bare minimum of what you need for anything you're going to build, to be honest with you. Because the only thing that we're doing here is spinning up an Alpine, 3.12, which probably could have done a higher version than that. We're installing a couple of things, TINI and curl. And then these, I literally copy paste, except for maybe check web, because sometimes I don't need it. These 3 lines I copy paste into almost every service I do, because it just copies over, well, not even this one really, just these 2. Because it copies over the Docker entry point that I'm building to make my service work, and it gives it permission so that the container on the embassy can run it. And that's it. And then you expose whatever ports you want. The same place we went to in the manifest, where we had the interfaces. We expose those ports here, and then drop it into the entry point. All right, once you've done those 3 things, you can literally run a service. You're pretty much done. So do you guys want to run Hello World? Want to see it go from 0 to hero? All right. So the first thing we're going to do is verify that Hello World is not on my server. So let's go over to Embassy.
Show us your sleeves.
Boom, look at that. No Hello World. And then I'm going to say, OK, well, let's start off by saying where am I? I'm in my repos. I'm going to go into, first of all, we can start from really start from scratch. Let's remove the Hello World that's there. So you guys really know there's nothing there going on now, right? We got no Hello World. We're going to do a git clone HTTPS from GitHub / I think it's Start9 Labs / Hello World wrapper. And we just cloned Hello World. So now I got a fresh version of it from the interwebs. And I'm going to cd into it, look at it to make sure it has all the basics that I talked about. Well, I see a Docker file. I see a Makefile. I see instructions, too. I see a Docker entry point. I see everything I need. And I see a bunch of other things, too, which they have a lot of good examples of what you can do with this Hello World, but it's mostly commented out. But it's a really good place to start if you want to see what's possible. But this is what I need to at least start off. And my Makefile is there. I think you saw the Makefile, right? Where is it? There it is. So I can just do a make. Now, what this is doing, I have no clue, to be honest with you. Like, I'm sure someone who understands, a lot of this stuff can explain it better than I can. I can point out things that I understand, but to be honest with you, I started off by reverse engineering and self-teaching myself a lot of this stuff. So whenever I see something that doesn't make sense to me, I'll stop and I'll Google the hell out of it, Googlify, until I figure out what it is, or I'll go learn it from scratch again. So it's been a very long process where I feel like a lot of people in this room could probably do this in a week. All right, while that's happening, I'm also, that didn't happen the last time. What does that mean? Let's see. It doesn't like the from ARM64 V8.
I think it's just Docker. It's
You think?
unshaped amount, so
Let's try it again.
yeah.
I'm about to say, I've never seen that happen before. That's what I get for deleting the one that already worked.
You might have to Docker log in with the command.
I thought I did that, didn't I? Oh, you know what? You saw me start it. You might be right. Let's see. I probably just closed Docker too, didn't I? There it is. Whoa. It says I'm connected and logged in right there. You said I need to do a Docker login, or is it auth?
Usually Docker login, but I don't use the desktop agents.
Login succeeded. All right, let's try that again. Oh, didn't need to do that again. And make. So I usually build on my Linux desktop. I have a System 76. Anybody uses that? Yeah, it's a pretty cool system, even though it sounds like a 737 when it's trying to load. That didn't work.
Different error.
Yeah, different error. Let's see if balance of Satoshis works, because I'm pretty sure I'm running out of time anyway. Let's see. Balance of Satoshi and make. That should probably work because we already made it. That feels like it's cheating though. I really want Hello World to work. It just worked for me a while ago. I don't know why it's not working now. Let's try it one more time and try to fix this error. Oh, you know what I should do too? Let's go in and steal from my cheat sheet that I was telling you guys about. The multi-arch stuff that we need. No, that shouldn't be the reason. If you guys are wondering what that is, I made some plebnet matrix bridges to go between Telegram and Matrix so people can talk to each other. I wonder if it's the internet. Yeah, the internet just died on me. You guys have internet in here still?
I have it's still live.
Are you connected to the embassy Wi-Fi?
Not the embassy one, the router
Maybe
right there.
That's why you're having trouble making
Huh.
shoddy internet.
Yeah, let's.
Connect to IHG.
Let me jump on Pressler's garden and see if I can make on that.
While it's going, I have a question.
Yeah.
I didn't see anywhere where you could specify like if your app needs a Bitcoin B connection to work, is there a way to like have Start9 share that information with your environment?
Yes, there is. I'll show you that in a second. That's what I was going to show you for balance with
That's what I
Satoshis.
figured, right, since-
Yeah. Let's see if we can make Hello World first.
Go internet, go.
Yes.
Yay!
That was weird. All right. So in this room, if you want to follow along, you got to connect to the real Wi-Fi to make something. But now I'm going to connect back to the router where the Raspberry Pi is so I can secure copy it over. Thank you for that, D++. SCP, and I'm going to grab the file, hello world.spk. I'm going to log in, root. And to log into an embassy, you have to have an SSH key. You can't just log in with a password. So before here, I got my SSH key. I think I use ID 255, what is it called?
Yeah, IDED
19.pub, and copy that in. And to show you where it happens on the embassy, where am I? You go over to the embassy settings, SSH, and there's all the keys. And you can add a new one if anybody in here was following along and wanted to upload stuff to test, you can just add your key here and do it. But mine's already there, so I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to say embassy dot, shit, I forgot the name of it. There it is. This is the assigned local address you have for your embassy. I like to put it in one of the folders that are persisting. So I do embassy data, package data, and that's it. This shouldn't take long. It's a very small file. Look at that, finished already. Now the S9PK file moved from my laptop to that little Raspberry Pi. And all I have to do now on the Raspberry Pi is log into it. Let's log in here by doing SSH root embassy dash dot local. I'm logged in. Really cool intro screen. And then I'm going to do a Embassy CLI package install and find the file. And the file was hello world, right? There it goes. Now, as soon as I click this button, it's going to tell me I'm not authorized. So I can authorize myself by going to embassy.cli auth login and type in my password, which I'm not going to tell you. And then I'm going to do what I did earlier. While that's happening, if I went over to the Embassy and looked at it, I keep going there by accident, you can see it installing. You can look at how it's installing. You can see how far it is. Now, it's installed. Question is, does it work, right? You can make anything look like it's working, but does it actually work? So this is where your instructions would go. Like I said, that doc instructions, you explain it here. You can config stuff, properties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But let's start. If we had something in the background running, like anything at all in your entry point, it would show up in the logs. You'd see everything running here in your logs, which is very important for troubleshooting when you're building your own service. But if everything's working well, look at that. Your web interface health check worked. It looks green. Green is always good. So you can launch by going here. And that's going to launch that specific service with its own hidden Tor address if you're over Tor, or your own local .local address if you're over your LAN. Now, this is because I don't have a secure connection. So you'd have to like add a SSL cert for this to work, or your own CA. But I'm going to go to show details, visit it anyway. Yes, visited. Hello world. Thank you very much. All right, so that was hello world. We probably have.
Is there a way to to get the Onion domain inside your container?
There's two things that are happening here. If we go down to interfaces, it gives you an automatic onion. So you can connect this, you can open up Tor browser, and you'll see the exact same hello world right there. It automatically translates whatever you have over HTTPS into the onion hidden Tor service.
But let's say I have I don't know, a web UI or whatever that wants to show that to the user inside my web UI.
That's the second one. That's what Kuch wanted to do. So you build you install your own instance of what is it, the Tor daemon.
Okay.
And you can make
okay.
multiple ones
I
inside.
my own. Okay.
You got it. Yeah, and that would just be specified in the manifest where we were doing the multiple ports and Tor entries.
If your app wanted to communicate with BitcoinD or Lightning,
Yes.
I think that's a manifest.
Let me show you that now. It is a manifest thing, and that's why I wanted to get to balance of Satoshi. So let's go over here again, and we're going to go back to balance of Satoshi, and we are going to look at the manifest here. Now, balance of Satoshi depends on, let's close the hello world wrapper. No, don't save. Balance of Satoshi depends on LND. I wish they would do C Lightning too. Maybe one day we can give Alex a bounty. Maybe one day he'll make it C Lightning hooked in. But for now, it's LND. And if you want to make sure that LND is running before, or anything is running before you start your service, there's a dependencies section. And the dependencies section literally just calls the name of whatever the ID of that service is. Remember up top we said hello world? You can call anything here as a dependency for what you're building. So in this case, it's LND. You can set the versions to be range. So anything less than 11.0 will not work for this service. Anything more than 15.0, you don't know if it'll work. So let's just cap it at 15 just in case they make some crazy change at 15 that won't make this work anymore. You can set the type to be required or opt-in or opt-out. Opt-out means by default, it expects you to have it, and you can turn it off in the config. And then you can also set a bunch of other config options here as to exactly what parts of LND need to be on or set in order for this to work correctly. So you can extrapolate that to any service. What part of BitcoinD do you need ZMQ? Do you need index transaction indexer on? Like anything like that you can build into the dependencies of the app that you're building. And then, yeah.
Does that depend on them specifying what is available in their Start9 wrapper, or like how does that work?
What do you mean by that?
Like if I wanted to say that you need ZMQ enabled on your BitcoinD would that be like the standard way to config Bitcoin D, or would have they had to define that? Whoever made the Bitcoin D wrapper, maybe Start9, their manifest defines like a list of config. Like, who defines the config? I guess.
So
For the dependencies.
for the dependencies, you would define the config. Like there is a part of the dependency. If you look at, you can probably see it in one of these examples here. If you look at dependencies, manifest with dependencies, and I scroll down, there's a part of the dependency, oh, it doesn't even show you here either, but in the config where there is a section called get and set, and the set does a auto config. So basically, if you are in my balance with Satoshi and I have LND configured, but I don't have, let's say I don't have key send turned on, right? And you want key send to be turned on for balance with Satoshis to work properly, the set tells you, hey, you need key send turned on. Click this button to auto config, and you'll click the button, and it'll automatically turn on key send in LND without you even needing to do anything in your LND.conf, and then turn back around and say, okay, that's fixed now. You can run balance with Satoshi. So you do it all here as the service package developer. You don't need anybody to change LND or change Bitcoin D for that to work for you.
I guess, yeah.
LND would have to expose that as one of the flags that's toggleable or something.
Everything is exposed as all the, well, I shouldn't say everything. Let me show you what is exposed, because there's a lot to LND. Everything you see in this config is also exposed in a YAML file for anyone to use on any service. And so the alias, the color, accept key send, amps, reject routing requests, channel sizes, under Tor config, use Tor for all traffic, stream isolation, under Bitcoin Core, whether you want to use the actual Bitcoin Core. Let's say you have something else installed like Bitcoin NOTs or JS or, right? Or we have a thing called Bitcoin Proxy, which I said before, you can literally control exactly what RPC calls you want this one to have and not have. So it's like security, extra layer of security there. Autopilot, you can enable that. I think once you enable that, it gives you more stuff. Maybe not. And it also tells you if you edit anything too. So if you make a mistake and touch something, it'll say yellow, edited. So you make sure you don't mess something up. Whether you want a private channels to be activated, a bunch of stuff. The one thing I always turn on in here is, there we go, Wombo. I always turn on Wombo as well. Girth.
Island Bitcoin node.
Is that what it says?
No, I was just saying your node is off the chain, all your Wombo channels.
It's, yeah, it is literally off the chain. So yeah, all of these things you can literally access from any other service because it's exposed to you once you do two things. Let me show you actually what you need to do. I didn't tell you the other part. One is have balance of Satoshi manifest. One is to have the dependency showing that you need it. The other one is in the volumes to have the LND volume mounted right there. That's the more important part.
So the volumes are the named with the package ID as well?
With the package ID, that's correct.
And then from my app, how am I communicating with LND? Is that exposed as like an environment variable for like the endpoint?
Once you set the LND volume here, it'll be exposed under MNT/LND in your container you just built.
Well, for like, sorry, for the RPC part.
Yeah, you'll have your admin macaroon in there. You'll have, oh, the RPC part. That's for Bitcoin D, you mean then?
Or what is the local IP address and port of LND?
Ah, great question. So for every container that you have, let's say, for example, my balance of Satoshi's container, it's the container name. I can actually show you here, since we're already into, here we go. The container name here is, what am I in, Hello World? Docker, I forgot how to do that.
With Docker container LS?
Let's do Docker PS. Here we go. So you can see the names of the containers, hello world.embassy, B to your Bitcoin D proxy, your Bitcoin D RPC, you do a Bitcoin D.embassy : 8334, something like that, 8332. Or if you're looking to do LND, you do LND.embassy : 10009. Or anything else you build, that's the way you connect to it. And they all can see each other.
This
that way.
Hostname networking.
Yes, thank you. And our network host name is Start9 as a default. But I mean, all of this is open. So if you wanted to like hack it and change it and make your own network name, you could. You can probably even make another network in there completely separate. But once you're in the Start9 network under Docker, you can see all of them.
But you'd have to assume they're running everything on the default ports then too, right? 'Cause really, if I'm
No, you can see it. You can one click into that config and see what port they're running it on. Because every one of them are.
making an app for any embassy user to use. I don't know which. I want it to be provided to my app as part of my Docker run or whatever.
That's true. You
So-
you would have to make sure you configure the correct port. Or well, what I'm saying is, let's say I'm running Bitcoin D and I decide not to run it on 8332. I run it on I don't know 9000 or something instead. Everything I build from that point forward on my machine would have to be configured to 9000, not 8332.
Yeah. I'm surprised if they really don't inject, like Umbrel injects all the information into your Docker file, so you can just access these environment variables.
Yeah, you can pull the port, right? It's just another variable on Bitcoin D.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you look at the Docker entry point here for balance of Satoshi, which I'm going to build for you guys in a second. I know we're running out of time. You can see that, is it in here? Oh, it's not even in here. I thought it would have been in here. I wanted to show you how we pull variables. Yeah, I'm in it. I'm just saying I thought I pulled a variable from here, but I didn't. But I can maybe show you one in LND Hub where I was pulling some. You can see here, we use YQ, and I'm pulling literally the Tor URL from a YAML file that is, like I said, if you go into LND, there'll be the files that come over that you can see all the config variables from LND, and you can pull them into here as a variable to use in your config as well, and for Bitcoin D, and for whatever service you're running. So it makes it really easy to access, the setup variables for any service if you need to know the port. Usually it's username and password is pretty important because you set those as well. That kind of stuff. But don't look at LND Hub. I'm still working on that. That's not done yet. All right, so let's install Balance of Satoshi. Let's do that because we know that we have LND set up already. I'm actually going to leave and not save changes. I'm going to stop LND on purpose. Not because I had to, but because I want to show you guys something else. And I'm going to install Balance of Satoshi. What are we in? Hello World wrapper? I'm going to make, I think we're already made to make time go by faster. And once that's done, I'm going to do, again, a SCP, Balance of Satoshi, root, embassy. Still have that copied in my clipboard. Local. And I can put this anywhere, by the way. It doesn't have to be an embassy data, package data. I'm just a creature of habit, and I know that this is one of the persisting volumes. So even if I restart my embassy or something goes wrong, I know I can go back and my S9 PKs will all still be there, waiting for me to reinstall.
So you really can just share that S9 PK file?
Just like an exe file with anybody. And they can secure copy it into their machine and use it. And it'll auto. Like I said, the only difference is like what you said. If the ports are different, they're not standard, you want to make sure whatever S9 PK file you use pulls the port from that service, doesn't assume the default port. But once you have all that pulled from the services you need, you can send it anywhere, and anybody else can use it. All right, what did we do wrong here? No such file or directory. I think I needed a / there somewhere. There we go. And this one should be pretty quick as well. Does anybody in here use Balance of Satoshi? Besides D? No? Anybody here runs a Lightning node?
L&D haters.
Okay, we got some Lightning nodes.
CL boss.
CL boss, yeah. We got some core Lightning fans in here. I see Adam in the back. Trust me, I've been making the switch, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Our most latest version of RTL now can do C Lightning and LND, and I think we're working on making it work with Eclair too. We're actually wrapping it clear too.
What about Sensei?
Yeah, why not Sensei?
I just learned about Sensei like 2 weeks ago. So it's coming soon, TM. All right, so that's fully loaded now, locked and loaded. We're going to do another Embassy package install, except it won't be Hello World this time. It will be Balance of Satoshis. And let's see if that thing is actually running. Boom, look at that. If you guys know Dr. Bitcoin, he made that logo. I really like it. And we didn't just do it without permission. Bosworth said that he liked it too, so I think it's proved. And once this runs, everybody knows Balance of Satoshis is not a UI interface. It is a command line tool only. So you're probably wondering, how is this going to work? How are we going to use command line? I've been trying to use Xterm to like pop up on the screen and have you have this browser-based command line tool, but over Tor it kind of sucks. And I would love to have something that works over Tor, but until then, you're going to have to SSH into your box to use it. But this makes all the connections for you. It connects to LND. If you wanted to connect to anything else, it could too. Any questions? Because I only have a couple more slides left after this.
Would it be a bad idea to essentially, once you're inside the node, to attach a terminal through Docker attach to what you have running and change things?
What do you mean attach a terminal once you're inside the node? Inside the Docker, you mean?
Yeah, so once you have the Docker containers up and running,
Yeah.
Docker allows you to attach a terminal to it.
Yeah.
And then you can change stuff.
I don't think that would mess up anything at all, actually. Well, I mean, it might break your Docker if you do something weird, but it won't affect the rest of your services or the embassy.
Okay. Like, there isn't like any like checkpointing or any updates that would just like erase anything that I did. So could I like make changes? I'm actually thinking on the terms of development. Like if I wanted to deploy this inside and then actually make changes and actively develop it while it's running.
Oh, I haven't figured out. I've been wanting to do that too, actually. And no, once it's running, I haven't been able to make those kind of changes. I don't know if there's something within Embassy that restricts you from doing that, but I've always had to rebuild the container every time I make a change in order to be able to dev. But again, like I said, I'm a newbie here. If you find a way to do that, I would love to increase my effectiveness.
Okay.
Or efficiency is the word I'm looking for there.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'll see what I can do to break it.
I know that if you're doing it on your laptop and you're just spinning up containers locally, you can probably do it. But on the Embassy, I'm not on the actual Raspberry. I've never tried that before.
Yeah, probably better just to like simulate this on your laptop and
right. Yeah. And Umbrel does that pretty well too. They have an actual package called Umbrel TAC Dev, where you spin it up on your laptop. You have this Umbrel container that you can just do whatever you want to do with.
Yeah, it's like it's close to the real thing.
Yeah. So here we go. Balance of Satoshi. It's live, but it's saying not running. Balance of Satoshis will not work as expected, and it gives you a one-click. And this is the really cool part about Embassy. Everything you need to fix is a one-click. So start LND. I one-click it. It takes me into LND, and I start it. And then I go back to Balance of Satoshis, and it says it's satisfied now. And that can work for Bitcoin D, for C Lightning, for anything you want. All right, and then we click Start. Now, I'm going to go into logs so you can see what it's doing. It shows me the Balance of Satoshis version. I literally put these in here as echoes in my Docker entry points. You can put whatever you want to have checkpoints or code. I tried to start Xterm, like I said. It sucked, so I disabled the UI. But you can tell if we went here, it'll probably try to, let's go here. It's not localhost, though. It's the actual interface of Balance of Satoshi. So it would be this guy right here. So we're going to try that in a second, just for fun. Where was I? Oh, we're running it, right? So what I'm going to do now is go over to this, and I'm going to do docker exec it Balance of Satoshi. See, it finished auto-completing for me, and I could do bin bash. But if I didn't want to do it that way, I could just exec and do the one command that I want, like Balance of Satoshi, Embassy, boss peers. And that should show me all the peers I have, which should be none since this is a brand new node. But it should show me at least 0 or something. There we go. See? Balance Satoshis are working for you right there. And if you want to do many commands, because if you guys know balance of Satoshis at all, opening balance channels is an interactive command. You have to like tell it the pub key afterwards, give it your stats per byte, blah, blah, blah. So we would do a docker exec it into balance of Satoshi, open up bash, and now you're in there and you can do whatever you want. You can do a boss, open balance channels. Oh, I didn't spell the L. Yeah, boss seems to be moving a little bit slow, but
Can you open a Chanel?
oh, what? See, there you go. Public key of the node to request a balance channel to open with. You give it a pub key, and it goes on from there. But you guys can get the idea. Anything you have, whether it's command line, whether it's on the UI, you could basically build what you want. So now that we've done that, let's go back and finish up this presentation, shall we? Pretty much done, to be honest. All these were just screenshots. So if that didn't work, I was going to screenshot everything and show you. But it all worked, which is awesome. It's the hello world. We just packaged something real, which was boss. Go to market. Like this is literally, anybody use Matrix. Start9 is on Matrix. So if you want to go to market with your app, like if people really like it and you want it exposed to the public, you would join the Matrix Start9 dev chat. And it looks like this. And we have a lot of fun in there. And if you're interested in either helping us to build stuff or contribute something you've built yourself, just jump in there. And those guys are super helpful. And they like services, especially new ones. If there's anything you want to build that does not go along with the sound money or the freedom tech ethos, this is your own system. This is your own computer. So even if Start9 doesn't put it on the marketplace, you can still build your own community marketplace. You can still literally have S9 PK files you just share with your friends or share with anybody you want. You can publish it, and it can grow from there. So there's no restrictions here on learning or on building, even if Start9 as a company has their own mission statement, right? And these are just ideas I threw up here. Jitsi shot probably shouldn't be there, but everything else, I mean, think about what you want to build. I'd love to see what comes out of this workshop, because the more services we build on personal servers that allow us our privacy, the better off we're going to be. I love this idea, IPFS, interplanetary file system sharing, because that one's going to be able to allow us to do all kind of stuff without needing servers if we join all our nodes together. And that's it. Hit me up for questions if you need them.
Can you sideload the S9 PKs from the interface within Embassy?
That's coming out in 2 weeks. And I don't mean TM, I mean literally 2 weeks. That's coming out. You can drag and drop into the UI, and it'll sideload it.
That's sexy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was excited when that one
have
came out.
like your own marketplace where you just like have the S9 PK.
Spin up any WordPress, any HTML, any blog, spin up Ghost, drop a bunch of S9 PKs on there, and you can drag it from yours onto their Embassy.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I'm right here if you guys need questions. Otherwise, I'll probably see you at the LARP or at the meetup. Thanks for